We're back, legends, and boy oh boy do we have a good one for you guys today. During an era when the NBA's culture took on a massive transformation alongside hip-hop culture, Jason Williams, aka White Chocolate, became a global sensation. He brought playground flair to the NBA hardwood and defied racial expectations by earning the love of both the white and black communities. Well, all communities, actually. His upbringing, attitude, and rise to stardom earned him the reputation as the Slim Shady of basketball. And this is the story of the one and only White Chocolate. Chapter 1. Bell, West Virginia. Jason Williams was born in a very small town called Bell in the state of West Virginia on November 18th in the year 1975, by his mother Delana and his father Terry. As a kid, Williams was basketball obsessed, even at a young age. Throughout his entire childhood, he was always dribbling a ball around the house, tossing it behind his back and against his bedroom wall, over and over and over again. He was a happy and talented kid. But as many true stories would have it, his life was about to flip upside down. When Jason was 14, his mom Delana confessed that she had been having an affair with another man and that she was leaving Jason's father. From that moment on, Jason never spoke to his mom again. She tried to reconnect with him later in his life and even bought tickets to several Kings games to try to get his attention, but Jason refused to respond. The breakup brought Jason a lot of pain, and the basketball court was his place of solace. However, Bell was a quiet and predominantly white town, without much basketball talent to speak of. Jason needed to seek out other talented players he could practice with. To find that, he had to walk down to an equally small town only blocks away, called Rand. Rand had a larger black community and had a playground where the community played competitive pickup basketball games. Jason was the youngest kid that played on the courts, besides one other kid the same age as him, legendary NFL wide receiver Randy Moss. Jason didn't have the size or athletic ability of Randy. In fact, he was by far the smallest kid out there. In order to entice the older kids to want to play on his team, he learned to become a sensational passer. Chapter 2. DuPont High School. Jason Williams and Randy Moss both attended DuPont High School and were in the same class. Together, they put on a show unlike any other that the district had ever seen. Both were dual sport phenoms, and on the football field, Jason Williams played quarterback and Randy Moss did everything else. Of course, including playing wide receiver. When it came to play calling, Williams didn't want to go short. Instead, he constantly launched the ball as high and far as he could and allowed Randy Moss to go up and get it, which he did practically every time. One year, Williams actually won the state of West Virginia Football Player of the Year award, but he knew that he didn't deserve it. The truth was that the gridiron was Randy Moss's domain, and Jason was much more focused on playing basketball, which the duo also dominated. Jason's dad, Terry Williams, worked at DuPont High School and also lived on the campus with Jason. So Jason grew up having his own set of keys to the school gym, and DuPont's gym was where Jason developed into a basketball player, unlike any other in history. He'd go to the gym late at night and worked for numerous hours on his ball handling, passing, and shooting. Basketball was Jason's full-time obsession. Throughout his entire career, Jason faced plenty of doubters for various reasons: his size, his attitude, his playing style. On top of that, Jason Williams and Randy Moss were both notorious party animals in high school. But one thing no one that has been around Jason has ever doubted was his work ethic and his commitment to basketball. Throughout his entire career, Jason Williams was the definition of a gym rat. He'd put ankle weights on his wrists and wear leather gloves to make his handles quicker and better. And when he put his skills on display, the on-court product was spectacular. The duo of Jason Williams and Randy Moss was the most exciting pair in the history of West Virginia basketball by a country mile. The flashy Williams used his ball handling and passing ability to electrify the audience game in and game out. Williams' guard skills combined with the leaping ability of Randy Moss made DuPont High School basketball a show like no other. DuPont's gym held 1,000 people, and if you weren't there an hour before tip-off, you were standing outside. In Jason's senior year, every starter on the team could dunk, and one time they all did in the same game. The school was forced to install temporary bleachers to accommodate the overflow crowds on game days. Chapter 3. Recruitment. Williams' talent didn't go unnoticed by college recruiters. One coach who particularly loved his game was Billy Donovan, who was the assistant coach for Kentucky during Williams' junior year in college. However, Kentucky landed highly touted point guard Jason Kidd, and therefore opted not to offer Williams a scholarship. In wake of the news about Kentucky, Jason Williams committed to Rick Barnes at Providence University. But Rick Barnes left the program after getting the coaching job at Clemson, so Jason reconsidered his decision and ultimately backed out. Instead, Williams decided to go to Fork Union Military Academy in Virginia. But his time at the academy was short-lived. After just 3 days at the academy, Williams failed a vocabulary quiz and decided it wasn't the right fit for him. At the suggestion of his father, Jason explored other options. He reconnected with Billy Donovan, who had taken over the head coaching job at Division II Marshall University in West Virginia, and decided that the program was a better fit. Before we get into Jason Williams' college and professional basketball career, we need you to like this video and subscribe to Legends Media. It really helps the channel out to keep on bringing you the most inspiring and comprehensive videos about all your favorite athletes. Chapter 4: College Career. Under the coaching of Billy Donovan at Marshall, Jason Williams began to make his mark. After redshirting during the 1994-95 season, the redshirt freshman showcased his skills by averaging 13.4 points and 6.4 assists for the Thundering Herd in the 1995-1996 season. Following his freshman season, Billy Donovan got the job at Florida University to be the head coach of the Gators. Jason Williams asked if he could follow his coach to Gainesville, Florida, and Billy Donovan agreed and offered him a full scholarship. It was a big move for Williams. When he arrived at campus in Gainesville, it was the first time Williams ever left his home state of Virginia, and the move was extremely challenging for Williams. Due to NCAA transfer rules at the time, Williams was forced to sit out another year of playing basketball, while also attending classes and maintaining a GPA to keep eligible to play for the Gators. It was a stark change for Williams, who, as mentioned, was not a particularly committed student. At first, his marks were all below the threshold, and Williams considered dropping out of school and heading back home to Virginia. But Billy Donovan talked him out of it. It would have meant the end of Williams' basketball career, which had too much potential to drop. So Billy Donovan contacted Williams' professors and told them to contact him if Williams ever missed a class or failed to submit an assignment. And he made a rule that every time he got bad news, Williams had to show up to the gym at 6 a.m. After about a week straight of showing up to the gym at 6, Williams asked his coach if he could just show up and run every morning, instead of attending classes. Obviously, that wasn't an option. Eventually, Williams pulled up his socks academically and managed to pass his classes, which made him eligible to play for the Gators the following season. Once Williams was eligible to play, he showed the country that he was a legitimate prospect. But his skills were still often overshadowed by off-court issues. Partway through the season, Williams failed a drug test and was suspended by the team. Upon his return, Williams led the Gators to an 86-78 upset of the Kentucky Wildcats in Lexington, the program that had previously passed on him. His wicked ball handling skills, seemingly impossible behind the back passes, and lights-out shooting brought fans out of their seats. Many compared him to another SEC legend, Pete Maravich. It could be argued that no player in history took streetball flair to the formal hardwood like Jason Williams did. He was the hottest thing in college ball. But with his name quickly rising up draft boards, Williams once again tested positive for marijuana. It was the second time that season and he was kicked off the team. His career at Florida lasted just 20 games, and after getting kicked off the team, Williams opted not to finish his classes either. Chapter 5: NBA Draft. After his embarrassing finish to his college career, Jason Williams found himself at rock bottom. He realized he didn't just let himself down. He let those that believed in him down, too. He apologized to both Billy Donovan, his father, and his college teammates for his poor decisions. Jason chose to keep on going. In preparation for the draft, he moved in with Orlando Magic player Nick Anderson. He intensified his workout schedule and actively engaged in training sessions with established NBA players. This effort was aimed at improving his skills and proving himself as a worthy prospect in the upcoming draft. During these workouts, scouts had the opportunity to witness Jason Williams on the court, facing off against professional players. Despite the off-court concerns, his talent during these showcases was undeniable, causing his draft stock to rise as the draft came closer. Still, fans and analysts expressed skepticism about Jason Williams. His decision-making both on and off the court came under scrutiny, and he was perceived by some as a streetball player whose style wouldn't translate well at the NBA level. Despite the doubts surrounding him, the Sacramento Kings drafted him with the 7th overall pick, much higher than most people expected the skinny white point guard with such a polarizing history to get selected. Chapter 6: Rookie Season in Sacramento. Jason Williams' career began with a lockout-shortened sprint season. The shortened season worked to Williams' advantage, as he never encountered the infamous rookie wall that often challenges first-year players. On top of that, the Kings head coach Rick Adelman gave Jason Williams the green light to play his style of basketball. Adelman encouraged Williams to embrace his creativity, even if it meant making mistakes along the way. The coach's instructions were clear. If you throw a behind-the-back pass and it goes out of bounds, try it with your left hand next time. Williams flew with the opportunity from Game 1. He quickly earned the reputation of must-see TV, leaving fans on the edge of their seats wondering what type of spectacular move he would make next. He quickly became a fan favorite, and his number 55 immediately ranked as one of the top-selling jerseys in the entire league. Early in his rookie season, Stephanie Shepard, a media relations assistant with the Sacramento Kings, donned Williams with the nickname White Chocolate, thanks to his playing style that was particularly unique for a white guy. Not only did Williams bring individual flair, but he also contributed to the team's overall success. The pace that Williams played at proved to bring the best out of the other stars on his team, such as Chris Webber and Vlade Divac. Both bigs proved to be flashy passers as well at their respective positions. Williams' fearless approach to the game and confident demeanor made him stand out. Some of his biggest moments came when he blew by Gary Payton, who was renowned as the best defensive guard in the NBA.
The high one off the window, up and in. What a move!
Another was during the NBA All-Star Weekend in 2000, when White Chocolate showcased his creativity and flair in the Rookie Challenge. In a move that would go down in basketball history, he passed the ball to his teammate Rafe LaFrentz using his elbow, drawing oohs and ahs from the fans. By the end of the shortened season, the Kings had accumulated a 27-23 record and earned themselves a first-round matchup against the third-seeded Utah Jazz, led by Karl Malone and John Stockton. In the series, the Kings stunned the Jazz with their incredible skill and pace. The Jazz were only seconds away from finalizing the upset in Game 3, but John Stockton made his last-second shot to give Utah a 90-89 win. Then Utah won the decisive Game 5, 99-92, to knock the Kings off. But the Kings' performance put the league on notice. A new era had officially begun in Sacramento. Chapter 7: Deterioration in Sacramento. White Chocolate's second season in Sacramento was much like his first. He didn't necessarily suffer from a sophomore slump, but he wasn't significantly better either. In fact, his three-point shooting accuracy was worse, and his turnovers were up. Williams was still a fan favorite, but it was clear that there were some deficits in his game that would need to be overcome in order for him to develop into an all-star caliber player. The Kings finished the season with a 44-38 record, managing to sneak into the playoffs as the 8th seed in the Western Conference. Unfortunately, their mediocre regular season earned them a first-round matchup against Shaq and Kobe's LA Lakers. In the series, the Kings battled. In fact, after losing the first 2 games, they won 2 straight at home to force a Game 5. But in the final game, they were completely outmatched. And that, in large part, was because Williams was severely outdueled by the Lakers' backcourt, consisting of Kobe Bryant and Ron Harper. In the series, Williams failed to generate offense and faced plenty of criticism from fans and media. Then, entering his 3rd year in the league, things took a turn for the worst in Williams' young career. Right off the bat, Jason Williams was suspended for the first 5 games due to a drug violation. The suspension didn't only prove to be an obstacle that kept him from developing early chemistry with his teammates, it also tarnished his public reputation. If any NBA fans weren't aware of Williams' drug-related issues from his college days, they sure as well were after his suspension. The media publicly roasted him and questioned his character. At the time, Williams was one of the most popular players in the league. When he was finally able to return to the court, the Kings elevated their play to a whole new level. The Kings won 11 of their first 13 games, with Williams back on the court. But just when it seemed like the media was ready to put the drug suspension in the rear view and start focusing solely on the Kings' spectacular brand of basketball, white chocolate screwed up again. And bad. During a road game against the Warriors, Williams was accused of making racial and homophobic slurs directed at 2 Asian men and a white man who were sitting with a Vietnamese woman in the crowd. To be exact, these are the accusations on public record, not our words. Williams called the fans, quote, slant-eyed mother F-air, and claimed, "I will shoot all you Asian mother F-airs. Do you remember the Vietnam War? I'll kill y'all just like that." Then, Williams pretended with his hands to shoot a machine gun and imitated the sound the weapon made. The incident resulted in a $15,000 fine, and Nike, in response to the controversy, canceled a planned advertising campaign featuring Williams, citing concerns about the impact on their brand. Amidst the controversies, the Kings continued to play outstanding basketball. The team was still led by their dynamic front court combo of Chris Webber and Value Divac, but also got major contributions from big-time ballers throughout the entire lineup. Peja Stojakovic and Doug Christie could knock them down like clockwork, and the team even featured a ridiculously skilled 6'10" rookie named Hedo Turkoglu coming off the bench. They finished the 2000-01 season with the best offense in the entire league, with the second fastest pace of play. I mean, the Kings were probably the most exciting team to watch in the entire NBA, and Williams was definitely a big part of that, but the truth is that the team's added success was less because of Jason Williams' improvements, and more so because the Kings began hedging their Jason Williams bets as the season progressed. In fact, Williams' minutes and accumulative numbers all took a significant step backwards during his third year in the league, despite his team's rise to contender status. Other guards such as Doug Christie and Bobby Jackson took some of the ball handling load from Williams. By playoff time, the Kings had the third best record in the West and were matched up against the Phoenix Suns in the first round. In the series, the Kings were lights out, defeating Phoenix in 4 games, and Williams was nasty, displaying skills that set the crowd on fire. But fans couldn't help but notice that his minutes were even further reduced from the regular season. So much so that in the series, he split point guard duties 50-50 with Bobby Jackson. The win finally sent the Kings to the second round of the playoffs, where they got a chance to redeem themselves against the Lakers, but they failed miserably. In the highly anticipated series, the Lakers laid an old-school barnyard beatdown on Sacramento. A clean 4-game sweep, and most of the games weren't even particularly close. On top of that, Jason Williams stunk it up in just about every facet of the game. On defense, he was Swiss cheese, and he couldn't hit a jump shot to save his life. In the series, Williams was so ineffective that Rick Adelman opted to give Bobby Jackson more minutes at point guard in the series, despite Williams being the team's starter. And that series proved to be the end of Jason Williams' career as a Sacramento King. When mentioning flashy point guards of this era, one player that comes to all of our minds is Allen Iverson. This video might not be about him, but we did make a similar video all about Iverson and his impact only a few months ago. So if you're interested, feel free to check that one out, but let's not get too sidetracked. Chapter 8, Memphis Grizzlies. The ensuing offseason, Jason Williams was traded to the Grizzlies in a deal that sent Mike Bibby to the Kings. Jason Williams was devastated to be leaving Sacramento, a place he had grown attached to and helped build into a contender. Vancouver at the time was the 4th worst team in the league and was in the midst of relocating to Memphis. On the other hand, Sacramento was a legitimate title contender and immediately became even better with Mike Bibby, who was a perfect fit for the team. But the truth is that even though Williams was disappointed with the trade, it may have been a blessing in disguise. Moving from one of the best teams in the league to a small market franchise allowed Williams to step out of the public eye and focus on honing his skills on the basketball court. At first, it looked like the Grizzlies were going to have to deal with more of white chocolate's off-the-floor antics. During the early years in Memphis, the team struggled on the court, and Williams publicly criticized his own team, stating that they were the worst in the league in an interview. This led to a fine and suspension imposed by Jerry West, the team's executive. Williams was also forced to apologize to his teammates, which he agreed to do, just in a very white chocolate kind of way. Instead of apologizing, he made a speech about how the team do suck, but that it's just as much his fault as it is anyone else's. But as time passed, Williams played a crucial role in building the team's culture and became a fan favorite in Memphis. Even more importantly, he rebuilt his game to become a more reliable point guard. His improved play was largely thanks to Grizzlies coach Hubie Brown. Williams initially worried that Brown would be an old-school and boring coach who would try to limit his creativity on the court. Instead, he was pleasantly surprised when Brown allowed him to be himself. Eventually, the team started playing stellar basketball and achieved their first-ever playoff appearance in their third season as a franchise, before getting swept by the Spurs. Williams played a pivotal role in this process, proving to be a reliable veteran with lower turnover rates and higher efficiencies. Despite potentially fewer jersey sales and a less flashy style, Williams demonstrated his value as a mature and dependable player. And there was evidence that he was maturing off the court as well. In 2003, Williams co-founded the We Will Foundation with Dr. Bob Wallace of the UT Medical Group. The charitable foundation aimed to benefit children facing treatment for craniofacial deformities. Williams also frequently visited St. Jude Children's Hospital in Memphis because he loved brightening the faces of the children he encountered. It wasn't a publicity stunt. Williams tried to make private visits in order not to get hounded by the media during his time with the kids. However, after the Grizzlies were swept for the second season in a row, this time by the Phoenix Suns in the 2005 NBA playoffs, an altercation occurred between Williams and Jeff Calkins, a columnist for the Commercial Appeal. Calkins wasn't pleased with the team's work ethic in the series, and when he interviewed Williams, the point guard responded by saying that he was going to respond to the loss by going home to his family and counting his blessings. Chapter 9. Miami Heat. After getting swept in the first round for the second straight season, Jason Williams was growing a little impatient in Memphis. He was only months away from turning 30 years old and had quietly developed into one of the more reliable floor generals in the NBA. Yet fans still viewed him as a reckless player with attitude problems that the Kings were better off without, and the Grizzlies weren't going anywhere with. For a guy who put so much work into mastering his craft, the public perception bothered Williams. He wanted respect, not just for his flashy playing style, but also for his ability to win at the highest level. And in the offseason, he spent time in Orlando where he trained with Shaquille O'Neal. Shaq was about to enter his second season with the Miami Heat, a team that had serious championship aspirations, but severely lacked a passing point guard that could bring cohesion to the offense. During the summer, Shaq was impressed with Williams' passing skills and thought that he would be a great fit on the Heat. And the idea of playing with a true NBA contender in South Beach, Miami, was enticing to Williams as well. So Shaq went to Pat Riley and asked if there was any way he could work some magic to bring Williams in. And Riley responded by collaborating with a handful of other team managers and executives to orchestrate the biggest trade in NBA history. It was a 5-team trade between the Heat, Grizzlies, Celtics, Jazz, and New Orleans Hornets that saw a total of 13 players get shipped to new teams. In the deal, the Heat received Jason Williams, as well as Celtics former All-Star Antoine Walker and Grizzlies starting wing James Posey. But Riley wasn't done. 7 weeks later, he also signed Gary Payton to a cheap one-year deal to serve as Jason Williams' backup point guard. The acquisitions joined Shaq, Alonzo Mourning, Udonis Haslem, and a young Dwayne Wade on what was certain to be one of the most stacked rosters in the league. As soon as he arrived, Williams was immersed in a championship or bust mentality. The Heat weren't fooling around at all. As soon as the season began, the vibe in Miami was intense. Within practice, there was plenty of arguing, mainly between Pat Riley and head coach Stan Van Gundy. And even though the previous season Van Gundy led the team to Game 7 of the conference finals, he left in early December and Pat Riley took over as the team's head coach. There are contradicting reports regarding why Van Gundy left in December. If you ask Shaq, he'd say that Pat Riley gave him the boot and wanted to take control of the roster. But if you ask Stan, he'd say that it was his decision to leave. Either way, as soon as Pat Riley stepped in as coach, the expectation was for the Heat to live in the gym and work harder than any team in the league. For some players on the team, it was a tough adjustment, but for Williams it was natural, making him an ideal fit within the team's culture. And Williams' work paid off on the court. In his first season with the Heat, he started almost every game. He was healthy and was the team's third highest scorer and second highest assists contributor. He also put up the best shooting season of his entire career. The Heat rolled into the playoffs with a 52-30 record making them the second seed in the Eastern Conference. In the first round, they matched up against the Bulls, whom they overwhelmed with dominant play on both ends of the floor, en route to a 6-game series victory. They kept building off that momentum in the second round, where they defeated the third-seeded New Jersey Nets in just 5 games. The win sent them to the conference finals, where they were matchup up against none other than the top-seeded Detroit Pistons. The Pistons had knocked the Heat out in the conference finals the previous season before losing to the Spurs in a hard-fought 7-game series. Had they beat the Spurs, it would have spelt back-to-back titles in Detroit. The team had a starting unit that consisted of Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, and Chauncey Billups. But Miami's veteran roster, led by Dwyane Wade, were fueled with vengeance. The series went back and forth heading into Game 6, with Miami holding a 3-2 series lead. Williams, who had been solid through the playoffs, had struggled in the series, battling with Chauncey Billups. But in Game 6, Williams stepped and had the biggest game of his entire life.
Williams knocks down a three. 8 for 8 from the field.
He hit every one of his first 10 shots in the game. At the end of the game, White Chocolate accumulated 21 points on 10 of 12 shooting with 6 assists and only 1 turnover. The game was proof that Williams was a true winner, capable of stepping up when it mattered most. Thanks largely to Williams, the Heat overthrew the Pistons with a 95-78 win and punched their ticket to the NBA Finals, where they faced Dirk Nowitzki and the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavs won the first 2 games of the series, putting the Heat in a must-win Game 3. And things weren't looking good. The Mavs went on a run with just over 8 minutes left in the game to stretch out a 12-point lead. Pat Riley called a crucial timeout and made a substitution that took Dwyane Wade out for a rest and inserted Jason Williams into the lineup for a critical shift. Coming out of the timeout, Williams received a pass from Shaq and knocked down a 25-foot three-pointer that jolted energy back into the group. From there, the Heat turned on the Jets and won the game 98-96. Game 4 was a blowout win by the Heat that tied the series at 2. In Game 5, Williams continued to spark the team when they needed it most. Trailing by 11 points, he hit a 3-point shot to cut the lead to 8 on the Heat's last possession of the first half. And then, on the Heat's first possession coming out of the break, Williams hit another clutch 3 to bring Miami back within 5. From there, the game turned out to be a classic. Dwyane Wade hit a last-second jump shot to tie the game up and force overtime. Then Wade's heroics continued in overtime by hitting 2 free throws with 2 seconds left, giving the Heat an epic 103-102 win. Finally, the Heat once again won a battle in Game 6 by a score of 95-92 to win the franchise's first ever championship. Jason Williams, once faced with setbacks and controversies, had now achieved the pinnacle of success in the NBA. Not bad for a white skinny kid from Bell, West Virginia. Chapter 10: Final Years and NBA Retirement. Jason Williams continued to serve as the starting point guard for Miami after their championship victory, but the team struggled to make another deep playoff run. Injuries to his foot and knee began to take a toll, slowing him down during his final 2 seasons with the Heat. Despite the challenges, Williams remained committed to the game. After initially retiring for a season, Jason Williams made a surprising return to the NBA. He signed with the Orlando Magic, reuniting with Stan Van Gundy, his former coach in Miami. During his stint with the Orlando Magic, Williams played in all 82 regular season games, making 18 starts when Jameer Nelson was injured. He also contributed in all 14 of the team's playoff games as they advanced to the Eastern Conference Finals, before ultimately losing to the Boston Celtics in 6 games. Despite not securing another championship, Williams played a key role in the Magic's impressive playoff run. Following the run, Williams re-signed with the Magic, but surgery unfortunately led to a diminished role on the team. After that, he signed a 1-year deal with the Memphis Grizzlies to close out his career. The decision to end his playing days in Memphis held sentimental value, as it was a city where he had transformed himself from a streetball sensation into a true professional earlier in his career. Chapter 11: Impact and Legacy. Jason Williams was a true trailblazer in basketball. He brought a playground flair to the NBA, defying traditional norms. His on-court persona exuded a sense of individuality and creativity that resonated with fans from all backgrounds. Williams' daring approach helped pave the way for a new era of players like Kyrie Irving, Stephen Curry, and LaMelo Ball. And his transformation serves as an inspiration to troubled youth and young athletes.
Well, that's all the time we have. If you haven't yet, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel as we continue to grow in popularity.
I love when you count me out. Fuck it up, fuck it up, fuck it up, fuck it up, fuck it up.
Because I assure you, we've got more great stories on the horizon. And feel free to make requests in the comments section. We do read them. We take you guys seriously and want to make videos about players that you legends are most interested in.